Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
All right, now we're going to head up to Lake of the Woods. You get a fishing report up there with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, I'm doing well. How are you?
So lures seem to be getting more and more expensive, but I didn't realize that this has actually been going on for quite a while, almost 70 years, I think. There's a lure company that actually puts gold on their lures. It's 22 karat gold. They're out east. It's Al's Goldfish Lure Company, and they're going to be up at Lake of the Woods next week, and we're going to be up there with that aglow deal. I know you're going to be up there too. Gold obviously is a good color on Lake of the Woods. Joe, have you ever used Al's up there? I mean, I'd imagine it's got to work pretty well.
I'm sure they work real good. I'm just thinking about how I can, take those hooks off and kind of create a grill, for my teeth. I mean, isn't that what you do nowadays? If it's 24 karat gold, I mean, come on, Brett. Let's get with the times, would you?
It's 22, but I was going to take the hooks off and bring it to a pawn shop is what I was going to do, but
I'll tell you what. I will say this. When we pull spinners, sometimes we'll buy a little more expensive spinner blades because they got some of that real gold in them, and they're much shinier, and that shininess stays longer. So I'm excited to try Al's Goldfish lures. And honestly, I've never really used them before, and really just started getting wind of them recently. And they got some very interesting shapes too, because what that shape does is that makes it so that when you're jigging it and then that thing falls, it's got a little different action. And I'll tell you, when those fish are finicky, sometimes dialing in the size of the lure, the color of the lure, as well as the what it does in the water system really makes a difference. It's those little things, especially in February. It's those little things that make a big difference when you're fishing this time of the year.
Well, I'm excited. Prairie Sportsman this Sunday night is probably my favorite episode of the season. It's our trip to Lake of the Woods that's going to air, and we filmed a veterans event that was just a real emotional veterans event there at Arneson's, and then our family trip was that week up there last July that we filmed. That's going to air this Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. on Pioneer PBS, and then it'll be on YouTube, by the way, at the same time. So 7:30 p.m. Sunday night, you'll be able to watch the episode on the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel as well. And in that episode, Dan talks about you can use any color on Lake of the Woods as long as it's gold. Is what he says.
Hey, we've taught him well, haven't we?
I can't take credit for that line.
But no, I tell you, gold is so good in that stained water. And, even, I'll tell you, that hammered gold, I use hammered gold in clear water conditions, too, with really good success. Sometimes I switch to hammered silver, too. But that hammered gold is just a really good color. It's very consistent. And, when you're fishing ice fishing Lake of the Woods, like this time of year, hey, gold is definitely a consideration. But, we also want to be throwing in, the glow reds, the glow whites, the glow greens. We want to be throwing in some vibration, maybe some rattles. That's stained water, So you really want to be mixing those colors up and the noise and the vibration of your presentations. And, work with different people in your fish house and see what's working the best. Brett, if you use something with a jig and spoon with rattles, I'll try one with no rattles. Maybe we get Danny fishing a rip and wrap where he's ripping and getting real aggressive. And, you work together to kind of figure out, all right, what kind of mood are these fish in today?
I haven't used a lot of lipless cranks up at Lake of the Woods in the wintertime. I've used them in other places. They've been successful. I'm going to bring some gold-colored lipless cranks. I'm going to bring some up this next weekend, and I'm pretty excited to try them out, actually. They got some rattle in them and make a little bit of noise down there.
Well, and that... I tell you, having one person ripping, going after those aggressive fish. The other thing that's nice about that is that even if those fish aren't real aggressive, it's a calling card. Fish in the general area will come in to investigate. And, of course, a lot of times, even if they don't hit that more aggressive presentation, they'll slide over and hit your dead stick scent.
So Dan has been pointing out that there's been some real nice fish caught up at Lake of the Woods lately.
There's some really good fish caught. I saw one of my buddies. There's Paul Smith from Milwaukee Journal. Paul's really a good writer. He's been working with the Milwaukee Journal in the outdoor section for years and years. But yeah, he whacked a 28 up there, and we've been getting a lot of big fish. And that's the thing about Lake of the Woods. It's right now it's February, and fishing's a little bit tougher than other parts of the winter, because the fish are spread out. There's lower oxygen, so you got to fish every fish. So it's that 1-2 punch, jig one line, dead stick that second line with a live minnow, oftentimes a plain hook, maybe a demon, maybe a small or a big crappie jig, a small walleye jig. There's Brett McComas of Target Walleyes up there fishing right now, and he's got a nice walleye. But I'll tell you, just going with the basics. And sometimes when the fishing gets tough, downsize. And really downsize, put on smaller stuff, and that sometimes is a ticket. You know what? We're going through a lot of small fish like we have been all year. We got some great recruitment coming up, man. We got some great classes coming up. But you got to get through your small fish to get your keepers. You know what? People ask what about when I'm catching fish out in deeper water? Don't those fish die? And you know what? There is some mortality out in that deeper water, but, people say, should I reel them up slow? And talking to the DNR biologist, what they say is just reel up the fish normal. Reeling it up slow really doesn't make much of a difference. Reel that fish up, take it off, and get it back down that hole as quick as possible. And the quicker that fish can get down to the depths again, it's going to do well. If you get that fish back quick, the majority of those fish will actually live. Yep, there is some mortality, and that's why you see huge monster pike once in a while swimming below the fish houses, just below the ice, because they're picking off those little saugers and walleyes that didn't quite make it. But you know what? It's all part of it.
Do you think?
But fishing overall has been sorting through the small ones to get your keepers. Once in a while, you get a trophy.
When you talk to the DNR about that barotrauma, did they talk about using one of those barotrauma devices where you can put a clip on the lip and drop it down to the bottom and then pop the clip out and get them back down to the depth that they're regulated for?
They have not spoken about that specifically. Not to say that wouldn't work, because ultimately what you're trying to do is get that fish down. I have heard that when people would have a camera down, those fish, when you pull them up from like 32 feet of water, for instance, and 32 kind of seems that depth where it gets a little bit more dangerous for those fish. The deeper depths in general are. 32 was just one of those depths mentioned. But when they would let those fish go, they had a camera down, and when those fish would make it to the bottom, all of a sudden their eyes got normal again. And when you pull those fish up, sometimes when you take the hook out, you can see down in there, and it looks like their air sac's coming out. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, that's not their air sac, that's their stomach. So if you just let that fish go, a lot of times that stomach will go back in place, the eyes go back to normal, and those fish will survive.
All about that pressure. All right. Well, it is about mid-February, really, and I can't believe we're starting to think about the end of ice fishing already. It's going so fast. March, you kind of extend your season a little bit at Lake of the Woods, don't you?
Yeah, so the end of ice fishing for Lake of the Woods is later than most other destinations throughout the ice belt. Because we're border water with Canada, you can have fish houses out on the ice overnight through the entire month of March. And the walleye and sauger season doesn't close until April 14th. Pike season on Lake of the Woods is open year-round. So we still have a month and a half of fishing left. So if you want to get that extra trip in, if you haven't had a chance to make it up, March is an incredible month. Fish are putting on the feed bag. The fish know, regardless of whether it's really cold out or getting warm out, the fish know, because of the length of the days and the angle of that sun, that spawning's coming up. That spawning triggers their feed bag. They naturally start eating more to prepare energy for the spawn. And it can be an incredible month of ice fishing.
So keep it clean is something we've talked about quite a bit lately, whether it's poop bags or whether it's just ice anglers leaving their garbage on the ice behind them. That the news came out last week. We broke it here. Breaking news on Sporting Journal Radio, ladies and gentlemen. We broke the news that Keep It Clean is expanding to Mille Lacs and Upper Red, and realistically, I don't see it stopping there. I'm sure it's going to expand into a lot of places. One question that's come up, Joe, is I've been asked this a number of times lately, is what to do with your fish guts. Say you're staying in a sleeper house and you want to eat some fish on the ice. So if somebody's going up to Lake of the Woods and staying in a sleeper and they want to fry up some fish that they caught that day and then fish again the next day, what is the requirement to, what do they need to do with those fish carcasses?
So you're absolutely welcome to have a fish fry on the ice, but there's a couple of caveats to it. Number one, we have a slot limit on Lake of the Woods, 19.5 to 28 inches. You must throw those fish back immediately, and you can keep one fish over 28. Your daily limit is a combined limit of 6 fish, walleyes and saugers, with up to 4 of those 6 being able to be walleyes. So what that means is, number one, don't clean your fish until your grease is hot and you're about to fry them. You don't want to clean them ahead of time. You want to wait until that grease is hot. Clean your fish almost as you're doing your fish fry and preparing everything for the meal. Then what you need to do is you need to keep your carcasses. Try to keep them in a manner that when the DNR comes, if they need to measure your fish to make sure that it was legal length, that they can. So you need to keep your carcasses, try to keep them individual. They can't be rolled up into a ball and frozen because then they can't measure them. So, whether you keep them in a plastic bag in a bucket until the next day or whatever the case might be. And then, of course, what you do is you keep your carcasses until the next day. And then oftentimes what the fish house providers will do up there is they will come and collect your carcasses, which allows you to get then another limit for the next day. If you have your carcasses on you, you're not allowed to get another limit until those carcasses are disposed of on shore. So if you're staying in your own fish house, you're going to want to work with the ice road provider or the resort you went out with and drove out on their ice road, and somehow find a way to bring those carcasses in. And that's where too. Do not put those carcasses down the hole. Do not litter and put them on ice somewhere and try to hide them. That's littering, and that's part of the keep it clean message. You just make a game plan. Talk to your outfitter, your ice road provider. Do the right thing.
So much to plan ahead for, from garbage removal, human waste removal, fish gut removal. All that stuff is something you should think about before you even get to the lake. Have a plan in place. And of course, we can find out more about Keep It Clean and what to do with your fish guts and all that stuff on the Lake of the Woods tourism website. Joe, I'm looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be a good time. We're heading up to Lake of the Woods on Sunday. We're going to fish a couple of days up there. That Sunday night, of course. I don't know. I think there's some sports event on Sunday, but
the Prairie Sportsman episode.
But if I were you, I'd be watching Prairie Sportsman at 7:30 p.m. either on Pioneer PBS or on the Pioneer or Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel, for that matter. Two Lake of the Woods segments on which is most of the show, really.
Wow.
I think our show takes up our family trip segment takes up most of the show, actually. So
that's gonna be fun to watch because I know you guys whacked some big fish. I mean, it was like the big fish trip.
It was pretty funny while I was editing it. I'm like, Dan, I can't remember, was it your dad's? I think your dad caught like a 30 or a 29 or something like
Probably.
that. And I'm like, Dan, did I put this in the episode? And you're like, I don't think you did. I'm like, all right. So I had to go back and start re-editing. Like, there's so many big fish, I couldn't get them all in there. But I think I got all, because I think we had 4 or 5 over 29, something like, I can't even remember.
That's, a good trip.
So it was unreal. And
that's incredible. Well, now both you guys are coming to Lake of the Woods. Is that right?
Yep, you betcha.
Okay, so that's good because you both are looking a little dehydrated. I know a lot of people like coming up to Lake of the Woods to get some hydration. So we'll have to try to get you hydrated. We'll have to try to get you some walleyes, and maybe we watch a Super Bowl and Sporting Journal as well.
That's right, and Prairie Sportsman, absolutely. All right, Joe, if people want to learn more and plan their trip, maybe a March ice fishing trip or maybe an April Rainy River trip for some big walleyes and sturgeon, where should they go for more info?
Just make sure you plan it around Prairie Sportsman, but the website is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Makaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.
Come ice fish the famous waters of Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world. Experience full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper house options. From the northwest angle to the south shore, Rainy River and Baudette, the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleye, sauger, perch, and northern pike. Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, best fishing anywhere. For more information, log on to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.